everyone. Welcome back to Wills, Trust, and More. And of course, we have Eileen coming back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We
after
had a little
summer
vacation.
Hiatus. Yes.
And the topic that you had picked, talking about estate planning for baby boomers.
Yes.
Boy, that is a good one because that population is exploding, is it not?
Absolutely. They say the silver tsunami is coming.
That's what they call it. That's a good one.
Absolutely. We have the 79 million people, as we know, born between 46 and 64 retiring. They started turning 65 in 2011, and they are going to be retiring at a rate of 10,000 a day. That's 5 million a year for the next 15 years. And this is not their parents' generation. It's a new generation, proactive. They're very vocal as opposed to the silent generation. They've lived their lives differently. They're going to live their retirements differently. And it is going to affect society. It's going to affect healthcare, recreation, and the economy. So it is a force to be reckoned with.
Well, can you help guide us in any special considerations one should take if you are in that category?
Well, the considerations for the baby boomers retiring. The first thing we have to realize that these are not that saving one-job generation that their parents were. These were more mobile people. They had just gotten into the technology area, so they were able to move jobs, they were able to move occupations, move cities. Now that has estate planning considerations. This is not that very stable life that their parents lived, so they may not have been in the same home. They were more risk tolerant, so they may have traded up as the economy got good, and while they have a home worth much more than their starter home, they may still have mortgages at 65. That risk taking may have led to some savings implications. So all of that has to be taken care of into consideration at retirement. This was the area of divorce. Divorce got much easier. It was much more accessible. So we have many divorced couples, remarried couples, children blended from various marriages that have to be taken care of in the estate planning consideration. This was a generation who didn't have as many children as their parents. So we're looking at two-child families as opposed to maybe 4 or 5, which now has the consideration that one, for the economy, we have less people to take over those jobs they're retiring from. But from an estate planning perspective, we don't have that large number of children to be there as the parent gets older. So those considerations when it comes to incapacity planning are certainly what we have to consider. And speaking of incapacity, the hugest societal change that has to be considered in this arena is the longevity, the changes in longevity. We're so much healthier. The baby boomers are now going to be retired for 20 to 30 years. That's a significant change. And then part of that, not such good news, is that our health of the mind and memory hasn't kept up with the health of the body. So the chances are 1 in 3 over the course of that 30 years at some point will have some mental incapacity. So all of that is the soup out of which we now have to consider estate planning for the baby boom generation.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the baby boomers have a different way of life. They're actually affecting society differently from what their parents and grandparents knew. And so that's changing worries for retirement a little, isn't it?
Absolutely. Worries and opportunities. And the two greatest worries for those baby boomers, in addition to those things we just discussed, which lead to their own concerns, outgrowing money, 20 to 30 years of retirement. When Social Security first went into place, they didn't even anticipate that most people would reach the age that retirement was then.
Right.
It was 65 and life expectancy was 59. Now we have just gone up and up to now. Life expectancy is in the 80s. So if we retire at 65, we have all those years to be concerned with. And if we were more risk-taking, maybe we don't have that savings. Also, company pensions are becoming a thing of the past. So maybe there's just not that pension to rely on. So outliving money, planning for incapacity, as well as all those other estate planning concerns, is what the baby boomers do need to be concerned about. And they are, and they're coming to us, and this is what we're dealing with. But Ron, as usual, we do have the estate planning solutions, right?
Right.
We always have a cure for every problem.
Right.
And those solutions are incapacity. We've talked about this many times. You get that taken care of before there's ever a problem. Get it into the healthcare power, get it into the financial power, get it into the revocable trust, and you have those people in place to take care of you. Incapacity, as long as it's planned for, can be taken care of, and hopefully the medicine will keep up and will get better, and less than 1 in 3 will have to deal with incapacity. But while those are the statistics, we've got to plan for the incapacity. Now, if we do have that smaller family, maybe just 2 children, maybe they're in California and Greece or something, we do have professional corporations who will step in to take on that role. As long as we plan in advance, we can plan for incapacity. Now, lack of savings, or maybe not enough for that 30 years, plan for that also. If you haven't retired yet, meet with a financial planner, get the savings up to speed. We can talk to a financial planner, and certainly this is along with estate planning, maximize Social Security benefits. This is a burgeoning field of financial planning. If you haven't already taken your benefits, find out how you can maximize them. Retirement plans, IRAs, you can defer and lower the amount of income tax paid with careful planning. That financial planning goes side by side with the estate planning. We can protect assets too, always after careful consideration of the benefit and burden. But if that 30 years of travel and leisure is a big concern planning for, we can protect those assets. We can get them into asset protection trusts. We can do Medicaid planning, income planning. But all of it needs to be done before the need arises, as is always the case.
Okay, you used the word protection. Now, there's 2 elements to that protection. One, that the legacy of the person is going to continue based on what is in writing. So that's a trust, a will, whatever. And the other thing is to protect against taxes.
Absolutely.
If you don't do that, I'll let you answer that question.
Well, that's a brilliant question. And that is one arena where we do have good news, because and that is one of the biggest baby boom concerns. How much of their assets are they going to lose to taxes? And now for 12 years, we didn't know the answer. We just didn't know, because everything was in flux. Since the American Taxpayer Relief Act of 2013, we do have some answers, and the news is good. And 99% of baby boomers are not going to pay any taxes based on their average income and their average savings. We now are only going to have to be concerned with federal and state estate, death, inheritance tax, whatever way we want to couch it, if we have those very large estates that are over $4 and $5 million. So for most of us whose estate don't reach that level, estate taxes isn't something to be concerned about. Income tax and what we pay on our income retirement is a concern, and that is where you work with your estate planning and your financial planner in tandem to make sure you have all your accounts set up to maximize the most income for you and the protection. Then when it comes to protecting the underlying assets, as we just briefly alluded to, we can do Medicaid planning, we can do income protection planning, but one of the things we always have to take into consideration is if we protect an asset, we give up some access to it. So that's why I always advise that you approach asset protection with that caution in mind, but there are certainly things we can do. Now, when it comes to those very large taxable estates, if you are taxable, we can save hundreds of thousands in estate tax by careful planning. We've got to get everything together, sit with those professionals who can help you, and then hopefully the baby boomers will be able to live this beautiful 20, 30 years, have their income, be able to travel, be active, give back to the world. This has been a very vocal, philanthropic generation. They're concerned with their legacy. And you mentioned that word legacy earlier, Ron. This is a part of what I consider planning for the baby boomers. Their legacy, how do we preserve it? We preserve it during their lifetime with as much asset protection and careful planning as possible. We protect it for those they're given it to with the kinds of protection against divorcing spouses, predators, creditors that we get into their estate plan, their wills and trusts. And then, because this is something I feel so personal about, that our lives and their meaning, our wisdom, is every bit as important as the wealth that we transfer, we can do legacy planning with additional documents. There's a wonderful 40-page family love letter that one of the big financial houses has, which gives clients an opportunity to consider everything they want about their life and their death and their wishes. I just recently discovered some software by a local company called The Roadmap, where we can get all the information into this particular software. It's a one-time fee, and then you can, again, plan your life, plan your death, your hour of death, your legacy going forward in tremendous detail. Beautiful software. I've really enjoyed it. And then finally, we can do the ethical will. We've talked about ethical wills before, Ron. That's that beautiful document that bridges the legal documents and the non-legal, whereby those baby boomers can talk about their life, their values, their beliefs, their meaningful life experiences, get it into their documents, and make sure that that is there for those that they're contributing to be able to understand what their life had meant and what their contribution meant, what their generation meant. It's a beautiful way to just cap all this lovely estate planning for the baby boom generation.
Okay, can you walk the viewer through a typical step process as to what's the first step to do when they want to respond to your
Okay, start estate planning. Well, for those considering retiring, if they haven't retired yet, I do think it really goes hand in hand at this point to meet with their financial planner and make sure they have their savings and everything in place so they can really enjoy those retirement years. And Social Security planning too, this is such a hot topic right now. Plan before you take so that you can maximize those benefits. Then when it comes to estate planning, and of course we're talking today about estate planning for baby boomers in retirement, but all of us should consider it at all time. You just start thinking about who you want to take care of your affairs, who you want to take care of you during your lifetime. Are you going to be charitable? And this, again, very relevant to the baby boomers. If you have a charitable instinct, is it going to be an institution, a particular institution? Come see your estate planning attorney, your friendly local estate planning attorney. Think about who you want to name, what documents you want to get in place, and as will always happen, when you come to see an attorney, you're going to have a lot more questions maybe when you leave than when you started, but that's part of the process. And if we get started nice and early, you can take your time. Think about those questions, who you do want to put in place, what you want to provide for, how you want your life to be in retirement. And then we get wills, trusts, powers of attorney, ethical wills, living wills, end-of-life documents, all of that into place in plenty of time that you can just tuck them away and get out there and enjoy that retirement.
And for those viewers who do not have an estate planning attorney or don't know where to go, we're going to put Eileen's number at the bottom of the screen so you have someone to call, and she will guide you from that point forward.
Happily.
Through all of what there's no way that you could possibly remember everything she told you. And I'm sure some of the things she touched on, I think I ought to be doing that. Well, you probably should be doing it if that's what you thought. So the best thing is to call your estate planning attorney. If you do not have one, we're going to offer Eileen's phone number at the bottom, and she will guide you from there.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
You're
Ron.
welcome. Thank
Always
you for
a pleasure.
coming back
Thank
with
you.
us, and we'll look for another topic in the next few weeks.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hope you all had an enjoyable time in listening to Eileen. We'll be back shortly.